Hi, everybody. So welcome to the webinar. We're delighted to have you here today. This is part of our Caribbean celebration of World Migratory Bird Day. And so World Migratory Bird Day is celebrated throughout the entire world. In the Americas, it's coordinated by Environment for the Americas. And our theme this year is Birds Connect Our World. And so we're learning about a number of focal species that have long migrations, and we've learned a lot about them from satellite tracking. So you can see here a few of the focal species, including the American Kestrel, which we'll be learning about today. So typically in northern latitudes, World Migratory Bird Day is celebrated in the spring, usually the second Saturday in October. But in the Caribbean and Central and South America, Mexico, we usually celebrate in the fall because this is when we say our migrants are coming home. We have our migratory birds coming back, and they will spend up to 9 months of the year in our islands in the Caribbean and in other Latin American countries. And so they depend on the forests and the wetlands and the scrub habitats that we provide for them. Some also pass through the area, so the islands provide important stopover sites as well. So it's important for all of us to think about conservation. And if you could go back to the slide, Christine, about Birds Caribbean. Yeah, that one. So just quickly, a little bit about our organization. We are a nonprofit organization, and we're dedicated to raising awareness and promoting science and building capacity of our local partners to have a region where people appreciate and they can serve and they benefit from thriving bird populations and ecosystems. So if you're new to Birds Caribbean, I invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and you'll learn a lot about the amazing endemic birds that are in the region. We have a Caribbean Endemic Bird Festival that we celebrate in the spring. And then, like I said, we celebrate World Migratory Bird Day in the fall. So please do follow us. You can also sign up for our newsletter on our website. All right, next slide.
I just put that link on there to your website.
Excellent.
And also to the World Migratory Bird Day. Okay.
Super. So we are celebrating World Migratory Bird Day in September and October. So if you go to Birds Connect Our World, that bit.ly link, you can see a lot of free resources learning about migratory birds that visit the Caribbean and other parts of Central and South America. So every day we have a free coloring page for download from our book, Migratory Birds of the West Indies. We have natural history information. We have online puzzles and activities for kids, bird videos and call recordings. On our YouTube channel, we're featuring webinars and short fun videos on like how to fold origami birds, how to draw birds. And then also I want to alert you to a very special event that's happening October 8th through 10th. On migratorybirdday.org, go to Bird Day Live, and you'll see there's a whole 3 days of programming about migratory birds. And you can pick and choose what looks interesting to you to join, but there will be conservation panels, fun webinars, things for kids, book reviews, discussions, things like that. And on October 8th, we will have a special focus on the Caribbean. So do check out that link. And as part of our World Migratory Bird Day, we are hosting some webinars, and we're delighted to bring back Christine Elder again. She worked with us for our Caribbean Endemic Bird Festival in the spring to host several really fun webinars about endemic birds. So today, for the next 3 webinars, we'll be focusing on migratory birds. Next slide. So you all probably know Christine Elder. She's an artist and naturalist with many years experience. Great in the field, really promoting knowledge of nature by spending time outside and sketching what you see. And I don't have any drawing talent, but trust me, she can help you to draw birds or draw any kinds of flora and fauna that you see outside. So I encourage you to continue following her. Next slide.
Yep.
So Christine was the artist for our Endemic Birds of the West Indies coloring book, which we featured throughout the spring. And if you go to our website and look up From the Nest under resources, you can see all the coloring pages and download those as well from our website. Next slide. So we have a couple more webinars coming up. Mark your calendars and sign up for a webinar sketching the northern pintail, another really cool migratory bird. Ducks are my favorite birds because I studied them for my PhD. in the Bahamas. So the northern pintail is a beautiful duck. That'll be a really fun one to learn more about on October 8th. That'll be part of the World Migratory Bird Day Festival in Latin America and the Caribbean. Next slide. And then on October 29th, we'll be featuring the barn owl. And that's another really cool species that you'll learn about. It's a migrant to many tropical islands in the Caribbean and elsewhere. Next slide.
Great. I'm putting those links in there, Lisa, in our chat box.
Super. So I'm going to be happy now to turn it over to Christine. And again, just a warm welcome to everybody. And I hope to stay in touch with you and enjoy the webinar.
Great.
Over to you, Christine.
Lisa. And you can stick around in the chat box to answer questions here.
I'll be happy to answer questions
on Facebook. Yep. Okay, great. Bye. Okay, thank you so much, Lisa. That's wonderful. I've been working with Lisa for years now, and great resource there, Birds Caribbean. Make sure to check out those resources that she mentioned that I linked in the chat box and that you can see, I believe, on Facebook as well. So how we roll today, first I want to tell you about the resources. There's a button down below if you didn't already know about that. It says click here for resources, and that's where you can download your high resolution image that you probably should have known about already. And there's some other images there as well for practicing. Now, most of you have seen the chat box either here or on Facebook. Make sure you introduce yourself, say where you're from, say if you've seen a kestrel before or any other cool migratory birds. Now, our presentation is going to be about 15 or 20 minutes, kind of introducing the basics of kestrels. Now, I'm not an ornithologist, not as well trained as Lisa. I studied general biology and actually pollination biology for my master's degree. But I am a bird watcher and a bird watching tour guide, nature sketching tour guide as well. And so we're just going to whet your appetite in this presentation with lots of eye candy, lots of images. And if that inspires you to learn more about the kestrel, then you can go online to find out more. So we're going to really focus on the sketching today. And don't worry if you think you can't even draw a straight line, stick around and just watch. Because I promise you, if you go slow and watch my step-by-step video tutorial that we'll go through, then I'm sure you can do great. And then you can always come back and watch the replay. This replay will be available on Crowdcast, and I think Lisa's going to be putting it on their YouTube channel as well. And you can watch it again at any time, so you can really study how we go about that step by step. But so much of it is being able to really see the forest for the trees, like really knowing the external anatomy and the field marks of the bird. And that's really half the battle in learning how to draw it. And then my favorite part is we're going to be doing some sharing. So some of you guys I see in the chat box are my normal students that I have online, and you guys know all about sharing. But what that is basically when we're done with the step-by-step, I invite people up who want to come up and join me like Lisa did and to share their sketches or to ask any questions about kestrels or birds or sketching or anything like that. Okay, great. Let's see. Next. Okay, yeah, so again, you know, I'm here as the sketching expert. Like I said, I'm not an ornithologist, I'm just a bird watcher, and so I really love to combine those two things. My background is as a biologist and a naturalist and educator and artist, and I love to combine those things, especially in turning people on to nature with a sketching practice. So let me make my face a little bit smaller here so we can move into more of the slideshow here. So yeah, you know, there's lots of advantages to being a sketcher. For one, it really helps you, of course, to slow down and get meditative and really in the moment. You're not talking about the future or the past. You're not thinking or ruminating or worrying, which is something really common nowadays with all the problems in the world. So sketching really gets you to slow down and be right in the moment in your right brain. It also helps you to identify the species. So if you're a bird watcher, Or if you want to learn about any kind of organism more, you want to draw it. And I don't care what the drawing looks like in the end. I want you to focus on the process, not the product. So the process of looking at something long enough to draw it, like here I am in Guatemala, I'm sketching a quetzal actually. But you're going to learn those field marks. You're going to learn the important parts of the animal. You're going to learn more about its behavior, its habitat, and all those things. So I really encourage you to do more sketching out in the field. You don't have to have any fancy materials. I use just a mechanical pencil and a field notebook, or you could even just use a piece of Xerox paper and a clipboard, whatever it takes. So I really encourage you to try that. And that's one reason, hopefully you're here today. So yeah, you can learn a lot like I did here in Costa Rica, just looking at really basic things like comparing two species and their field marks. And you see, these aren't really detailed drawings. They're just more symbolic, just trying to have me learn about those field marks. Okay, and you can use lots of materials. You could just use that mechanical pencil I mentioned, or you could use the watercolors like this, or colored pencils, or gouache, or waterproof pens, whatever you want. Okay, and pencils, like in this case, I was really studying bird feet. A lot of people get really intimidated by all of the different bones in a bird's foot and how it wraps around the branch. And so if I'm looking at photographs and sketching a whole bunch of them, I'm going to learn a lot, and so will you. So I really encourage you to go out and do that. Okay, so anyway, basically, getting into actually today's topic, like Lisa said, this is part of a series of 3 that I'm doing. This first one's on kestrels, then we're doing pintails and barn owls, and we did link to those in the chat box. And of course, we will tell you about those more via newsletters or Facebook posts or whatever, so just keep those in mind. But today's topic is all about the American kestrel and how to sketch them. And here's a beautiful historic painting of the birds showing the really nice field marks and behaviors. And so, where kestrels live, Lisa mentioned how this is the beginning of kind of a month-long celebration of World Migratory Bird Day. So we're talking about birds that migrate. And kestrels are really, they're very widespread throughout the Americas, and they're very common. And they're the most common and widespread. And so they're a great species to talk about. And so, they live all over, from central Alaska down to basically Tierra del Fuego. And some species are more migratory than others. Of course, they're going to generally come a bit farther north to take advantage of the longer days and all the insects so that they can nest. But then in the fall, like right now, they're going to be moving south. And so some move farther south than others. So if you're a population that's way up in Alaska or Canada or the northern US, it's more likely that you as a kestrel are going to come farther south, down towards the southern states or the Central America. But those that are more, between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn they're going to be less migratory. And there's less known really about the migration of the southern populations. But anyway, basically, you can see from this wonderful map from the Birds of the World that they are all over and quite common. Okay, so, they're all over, I said, habitats. So lots of different habitats, and they kind of prefer open habitats, which is nice because it makes it easier for us to observe and sketch them. So they're going to be everywhere from up in Alaska to the tundra and taiga forests that are nice and open where they can see down into, the North America and the prairies and grasslands, those kind of things, even farther south down into the deserts, like this image from the Sonoran Desert. So they'll be in all the deserts. And here they are. Here's an image showing how codependent they are with other birds. We'll talk more about their nesting in a bit, and I'll tell you more about why I have this flicker and this saguaro here. And so, yeah, in the Americas, they're going to be in these open habitats, lots of grasslands and lots of like agricultural fields and even parks and suburbs. So they're really easy to observe and learn about. And of course, up here, I live in Central Oregon, and we're close to the high desert and the Great Basin, where you've got juniper and sagebrush. So they're going to be in there. And so, the types of wide diversity of forests from, aspens and cottonwoods and sycamores to conifers and oaks and pines, the longleaf pine forests in Florida. So lots of different habitats. Some images of the habitats. There's lots of eye candy, like I was mentioning. So you might have seen them where you live. Yeah, Eileen says they live and breed in New York City. Yeah, you can often see them in cities, and you can see them even if you go to a baseball or football game, because they'll often be around the big lights that are attracting moths and other nocturnal insects that they can eat. So they're really pretty easy to observe. Okay, and so just a little bit about their behavior, and nesting is one of their behaviors. So they're kind of unique. They're often going to be seen along fences and on barbed wire or telephone poles. They'll come back to that again and again as they perch and watch for their prey. So here's one on a telephone pole. And as they're sitting on those telephone poles, they'll kind of be bobbing their tail back and forth, like pumping their tail as if they're trying to keep balance, which maybe they are. Nancy, oh, how large are they? Oh, they're pretty small. They're just about the smallest and most colorful of the raptors, only about as big as a robin. And here's a couple of them. So yeah, they're often perched on things, looking out for food. They generally are going to stay with their mate throughout the year. Throughout their lives if they can. Of course, if one passes away, they may find another mate, but they generally don't get divorced. They're very loyal to each other. And here's the male and the female at a nest. And so they can't excavate their own cavities. They need to have a cavity already made for them. And that's where they are sort of codependent with woodpeckers. So I like to always mention woodpeckers because we've got half the nation's woodpeckers right here in Oregon. And my colleague, Steve Shunk of Paradise Birding, takes people out looking at all those woodpeckers. And they're really good at excavating a hole, as well as the ones in the desert, like I showed you that Gila woodpecker excavating the hole in the saguaro cactus. So these kestrels are always kind of looking for these dead trees that are rotting and that have holes that have been previously excavated and abandoned by woodpeckers. And so that's what they need. Oh, Kestrel Falconer says, oh no, those are babies, those male and female. Thanks. Yeah. So predators, prey, and hunting. Just again, really quickly looking a little bit about these critters because we got to get on to the sketching. We only have about an hour. So they're kind of interesting. They're sort of like kites almost, in that they can hover and look around on the ground for what they're going to eat. And so they do eat rodents like a lot of other raptors, so again, they like to live in really open habitats where there's grasslands and wetlands and meadows, so they can watch for those little mice and voles and rodents and things. So they're going to be doing that to some extent. But a lot of people don't know that they really love insects as well. And that's one of their main prey items, especially since they are so small. They're not as good at catching those rodents, but sometimes, they do catch even other birds. And sometimes birds catch them as well. The larger raptors will eat those because, again, they're pretty small. So yeah, they're gonna be eating lots of insects, especially in the summertime in the northern latitudes where the days are really long and they're living near wet areas where there's lots of things like dragonflies and damselflies and grasshoppers and cicadas and all those kind of things. But they will eat other small rodent like mammals, and then birds, and sometimes even snakes and lizards. So yeah, Kestrel Falconer said the lizards right about when I did. And so, nice wide variety of food preferences. So that's good for them. So being, able to live in lots of different habitats, in a large geographic range, being able to live, around man and deal with living with them and hunting in agricultural fields, they are able to have a pretty good population. Of course, like lots of birds, the numbers are going down, and especially birds that are insectivores to some extent, like these guys. They are impacted by the pesticides that are used in agriculture. Yeah, so anyway, going on a little bit to their relatives and then what they look like to help us draw them better. Okay, so again, keep going. Oh, Trudy. Hi, Trudy. I know you in real life. Yeah. But their population's decreasing due to limited nest cavities. Sure. Well, of course, again, losing habitat in general, especially losing the dead tree habitat. The same thing is affecting woodpeckers, as we all know, that you've got to have some dead standing trees for them to be able to excavate their nests. So, of course, habitat loss in general is hard on all animals. And when you cut down trees that are dead, like in your yard, it's great to be able to leave some dead trees, even if you only leave them 5 or 10 feet high. Then they're still tall enough for woodpeckers to be able to excavate a nest and then have secondary cavity nesters, as we call them, be able to use those abandoned cavities. Speaking of nesting, another thing I wanted to mention is you can help kestrels in terms of they will readily nest in nest boxes. Yeah. Okay. Okay, anyway, so moving on. So how do kestrels fit into the bigger picture? So of course, they are a raptor. So they're kind of like owls as well. They're in the order Falconiformes. So that includes a huge group of species, from eagles and the other buteo type raptors like red-tailed hawks, the kites, osprey, even caracaras. So, they have, the similar kinds of look to them, with the keen eyes and the big hooked bill and the predatory nature, that kind of thing. Gyrfalcons are one example. Prairie falcons are another. And you can see, of course, all the raptors have these very big, strong feet with the big toes and very strong nails to be able to grasp their prey. That very large eye with the kind of eyebrow on top is very characteristic of all raptors. And then you have this big, strong hooked beak, which is often black because that gives it a lot of strength from the melanin pigment. And then they have a naked part, this yellow part, the cere, with the nostril in it. So let's see. Within the falcon order, there's the falcon family, which has about 66 species in 11 genera, and so there's other cool ones like the Aplomado falcon. Isn't that one beautiful? And you can see how both of these guys have kind of facial patterns that are sort of similar to kestrels, with this little, what we would call a mustache, but it's not quite the same. We'll look at them more in a minute, the comparison. And here, these guys have the little mustache and the little sideburn back here as well. And a couple of fun ones that I've seen in Central America, the beautiful bat falcons, again, look kind of like the American kestrel, and the orange-breasted falcon. I was very lucky to see in Tikal in Guatemala. So, just getting an idea of the basics of these falcons being, what was I saying? Very predatory and that kind of thing. The long wings, see those long wings? Okay, so anyway, getting more close here to the American kestrel. Again, like I said, they live in lots of different habitats, from Alaska all the way down to Argentina and all throughout Central America and South America. They do differ a bit between male and female. So they are very colorful, the male, and amongst the world's most colorful of raptors. Most raptors and falcons look more like the female in having more camouflaged, muted kind of brown and cinnamon tones. So the male and female, though, they have almost the same kind of head, except the male's is a little bit more of the slate blue, just like his beautiful slate blue secondaries there, but they both have those 3 marks on their face. So they have a mustache, like a lot of those falcons we looked at, and they often also have this kind of like sideburn part. And they have one more spot in the very back, this black spot. And if you were able to see them directly from behind, that black spot would kind of look like the nose, and these other black and white areas would kind of look like eyes. So like lots of animals, they can kind of have false eye spots that help protect them from other predators. Okay, yes. Oh, yeah, Kestrel Falconer says, yeah, a lot of these birds are, really valued by falconers and have been used for, thousands of years throughout the world in a kind of symbiotic association. At least that's probably what the humans think. Yeah, so anyway, the female, this is the one we're going to draw. So she looks different in terms of her back. She's got the kind of modeled secondaries instead of those beautiful slate blue wings, but they both have the dark, long primaries that are strengthened by that melanin. And the male has this beautiful tail that's kind of cinnamon and then black and then white at the end, whereas the female, she has this barred or striped tail. And just another image there. So, all these falcons have these really long primaries and, nearly as long as the tail. So in a way, they're kind of like hummingbirds. So a lot of birds that are very, what would you say, acrobatic, have this long, what we call primary projection, which is these long primaries way past the slate blue secondaries. Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you, Lisa, for telling us more about all of that stuff. Yeah. So just a side view. Yeah, thanks for that in there. Okay, yeah, good. There we go. So some more images. And again, if you click the button below, this is click here for resources. You can see I've got 5 pages of high resolution full page images you can use. These are stock images that I purchased. Okay. And anyway, so you can go there and do that. And so let's see, just another one. So they have this really kind of short neck. They're kind of rounded. Of course, this one's a bit cold. So you can notice that their overall shape can really vary depending on if they're fluffed up, if it's cold or the morning time, or if it's the summertime and they're all sleeked back and more thin. Okay, just a couple more images. Those strong orange raptorial feet with very strong toes, 1 facing back and 3 facing forward, like the other, like other passerines. And you can see this one under the tail, a little bit different patterning from the top, and you can see these kind of barring on the tail that is really obvious. Okay, so, and then here they are with beautiful wings outstretched, and you can see everything there. Again, you can always come back to this slideshow and pause it anywhere and practice sketching, and I really encourage you to do that. Anyway, we're running short on time. We want to have plenty of time for our sketching exercise. So let's keep going. Now, they do differ throughout their range. I think there's about something like 17 subspecies of the American Kestrel throughout that whole range, and they do differ a bit in their color patterns. And our colleague in Cuba did this beautiful illustration. Nils Navarro did this beautiful illustration of the Cuban Kestrels, which looks slightly different. So anyway, throughout the range, they may look a little bit different than most of the pictures I showed you. Okay, now getting more into the parts we should notice when sketching. We did partly look at that already in terms of the field marks for what is basically a raptor and what's a falcon, and then what's this species. But let's just, look a little bit more closely. I know sometimes my students say, come on, let's get going, let's get started sketching. But the more time you look at the anatomy of an organism, the more easily you're going to be able to draw it. And so, we kind of talked about the field mark coloration kind of already here. And let's see, on this eye, you can even see the pupil here, and the kind of the colored eye. Whereas here you don't in this lighting. So that's something, you really want to notice when you're observing and sketching things, is to try to observe as long as you can and in many lighting conditions as possible, and different temperatures. Like before, when I showed you that cold falcon, the cold kestrel, it was really fluffed up big like a football, right? Where if it's hot, it's going to be sleeked down. So the longer you can observe and sketch them in different habitats, different times of day, different lighting conditions, you can really see them in all of their glory and sketch them better. So anyway, again, you can see how huge that eye is to be very good raptors in terms of seeing their prey from a very long ways away. And they have this big kind of eyebrow on the top that is going to be a little bit shadowed. And then they have this bare part in front of their eye, and they bare yellow part on the base of their bill with a little nostril. And then the very strong hooked bill. Of course, it's not as big and strong as other types of raptors, because these guys are pretty small, and they do, kind of are specialized in eating more things like cicadas and grasshoppers and dragonflies than eating bigger prey like some of your other falcons or basically other raptors. But they do have this interesting little edge here. You want to notice this tomial tooth thing. And that's kind of like a serration, just like if you have a serrated steak knife, it's gonna cut better. So that's something you want to notice and add. Okay, and then here we see the color patterns really well. Now, we don't have time to really focus on, the fine artwork. It takes hours to add all these color patterns. We're just gonna just look at them very briefly, but you can always come back and do that later. But basically, really definitely noticing these patterns that we talked about that's unique to the kestrel, with the mustache, the sideburn, the black mark on the back of the neck, and then this cinnamon color and the kind of the slate color. Okay. And then that's just a close up from the top. I don't remember why I had that picture, but it's kind of cute. It just shows the top of their head a little bit better, and that slate coloration. Okay. And then now, I know when I first started drawing birds, because I used to draw plants and insects and things like that more, I was really intimidated by all the parts of the wing. And so, again, we don't have time to, teach a whole anatomy class, but I did make this little graphic for you, and I'll be showing this to you in a few moments when we get started with the sketching. Is there are these different parts that we can kind of see on the bird, even though it's very subtle. If you see that I've outlined these various areas, you can see them better. Okay. Janella says, will comments be available later? I'm not sure what you mean by that, but the chat box stays there. Oh, Lisa, yeah. Okay, great. So anyway, you see these various parts. And again, kind of a unique thing about raptors, especially these falcons, is these very long pointed primaries that are really a different shape than the buteo type of raptors, like the red-tailed hawk. So they have really pointy primaries here. And then we also want to notice that little purple part. That's the alula, which is like 3 feathers of the thumb that they can move around. And anyway, we'll see this as we're sketching, and you can always refer to this again later. Okay, so that's the alula. So that's the thumb basically of the hand, and there's 3 feathers on it, and they can bring that out to help them when they're doing things like the hovering, like I talked about, the kind of like the kiting when they're hunting. And also that helps when they're landing, they can bring that out. So that's something to notice. Okay, and then here is just kind of a close-up of the real feathers. Again, you can see there's a certain number of feathers in each of these areas, and we're not going to get into that too much, but you can see those parts. Okay, and then here's the tail. This is the male's tail, and you see the striped pattern that's different than what we'll see in this female that we're drawing. And then the close-up of that foot, again, I'll show you that in the tutorial in a minute, but you want to emphasize that they have these big, strong raptorial feet, and they've got one toe facing back. This is actually the toe back here that's supposed to be generally facing back, and these are the 3 toes that face forward, and then they kind of have these different patterns on them. Anyway, let's keep going. We're going to run out of time. Okay, so tips for sketching. Okay, so now let me see. Now let me share just real quick here. Okay, so I know some of you in this chat box have sketched with me before, either in my online classes or with the other events we've done with Birds Caribbean. But basically, I want you to think about the way we're going to sketch today is we're kind of practicing as if we're sketching birds in the field. And thankfully, like we talked about their behavior, these kestrels will come back again and again to a perch, kind of like hummingbirds do, while they're waiting for prey to come by. And so it's a little bit easier to sketch them maybe through a scope or through your binoculars, but a scope is even better because you don't have to hold it. But I want you to think about, again, trying to pretend that you're sketching live. So I want you to keep that pencil moving light and loose. Avoid erasing every few seconds. A lot of people do that, but it's better to keep the bad line there before you erase it. Because I like to really separate the creation phase from the editing phase, kind of like when we're brainstorming writing, okay? We're going to be, just green lighting all the ideas we have for our business or our short story or our novel, and then later on editing. So think about that. And then you want to glance back and forth really frequently so that you're making sure to what we call ground truth, like you're looking at the bill and then you're sketching it. You're looking at an eye and you're sketching it. And you're moving your eye back and forth, or like I will in the video in a second, your hand back and forth. And then I want you to focus on the process rather than the product, like I mentioned before, because especially if you've never drawn before, you might be really intimidated and maybe unhappy with your finished product. But I want you to focus on really by the end of the sketching exercise, what you've learned about the anatomy of your critter, which is today is the kestrel, right? So you're gonna learn so much about it that I don't even care, if you crunch up your paper and throw it away and you hate your sketch. I want you to appreciate what you learned about it through that process of looking at it long enough to sketch. Okay, and then let's see. So there's these ideas, and you can find these more on my website. And when you go to my website, there'll be a pop-up that suggests that you join my free weekly sketching tips, and that'll tell you more about that. And so basically the things I want you to notice are, relative proportions, angles, alignments, negative shapes, and those field marks that we kind of already talked about. So proportions in terms of like how big the head is to the tail, or how big the primaries are to the secondaries. Things like angles, like what angle this wing is at, kind of like a 90-degree angle. I want you to think about alignments, like what things are aligned to others, like the two ends of the primaries are kind of parallel to each other. And then negative shapes are super, super helpful. And those are the shapes that aren't the animal. So that's like the little triangle here and here and here, and this little triangle here. Those will all help you to draw just as much as actually looking at your object. And then the anatomy and field marks. And we've already talked a lot about this. Again, your high resolution image has a male and a female, but we're going to draw the female because it's so easy for us to always focus on that more colorful male, and that can be your homework to do that. But she's just as beautiful. And then when we're done, I encourage you to post your sketches online. Yeah, share your drawings with this hashtag, Lisa says. Great. So the hashtag WMBD 2020 Carib. And so we're going to get going. So hopefully you either downloaded your image, but if you didn't, I want you to just follow along on a paper, just like what I'm drawing here. The size is relatively about a half of a general Xerox piece of paper. Okay. And so here we go. So first, I always kind of look at the parts, like we've mentioned already, the eyes and the beak and the field marks, the shape of the head and the neck, all those parts that we talked about before that I'll show you in a second. So the parts of the wing and the thumb there and the coverts and the primaries and the tail. So we look at that again. The more you could look at something, the easier it will be to draw. So we're going to get started. We're going to start blocking in the whole bird, and then we're going to do more details on the eyes and the legs at the end. So first, I'd like to just make a mark how long our critter is. There we go, sorry. So how long and kind of the general angle of the whole bird. And then we're going to do sort of a square for the head and a lot more detail later with the head. So we're just blocking in that square. Then a big oval, kind of like an egg-shaped oval. And I know this is very light, but I'm going to darken it up, but I want you to stay super light too. You're hardly touching the paper, okay? As if you're tickling the paper, with a feather-like touch. So now I go back to the head and getting a little bit more of that square. And again, we're going to add the eyes and beak later when we look at a close-up of the face. So don't worry, we're going to have a close-up of the face in a little bit. So just darkening up the neck here and making sure it's the right proportion to the body. So now we're going to get the egg-shaped body and just marking kind of how long it is compared to the head. Just this big egg shape that is the basic part of the body without the primaries. So trying to get just the general width and length. And again, looking back and forth, you see I'm trying not to do much erasing, just a little cleaning up here and there, but mainly getting some lines down, and I'm going a little darker each time I feel a little bit more secure about my drawing. So there's the end of the secondaries there. So just kind of outlining that secondary area. Now I can show, I've added the other parts here so you can see. So we're adding the scapulars. The mantle and the scapulars, sorry. The mantle was in white, and then the scapulars in green, and then the block of secondaries, secondary coverts. So that big area is the secondary coverts right there. So you can glance back and forth between the picture above and the graphic to the left. And the more you know about the parts of the bird, the easier it will be for you to see these in live specimens and to know that you need to draw them. So we've got those edges of those primaries, the secondaries there. And the tertials are actually the three last ones. So I'm going to go back to showing you the real photos so you can see those three. So the tertials, as their name implies, are three feathers that are a little bit gradated and shortened, kind of like feathers of a, the roof of a house, the shingles of a house. And then the rest of the secondaries are very much tucked under the secondary coverts, so you don't see those much. And I'm measuring here that area of the coverts, kind of darkening up that major area. That's just a whole bunch of the lesser and median coverts that are covering there. And so we don't see much of the secondaries. So that's what I'm drawing right now is the secondaries that are very much tucked under and covered right now. Now I'm going to do the thumb. So we do the thumb and the primary coverts. The thumb is these 3 feathers. So I'm measuring how long they are. Now remember, you can watch the replay as slowly as you want to follow along with this again, but I would just encourage you to try to follow now and then maybe practice again. So those are the 3 feathers of the thumb or a lula. And then next we'll do the 3, not 3 feathers, there's more than that, but the feathers that are called the primary coverts, and they're covering and kind of protecting the primaries. And only a couple of them are showing, but most of the rest of them are hidden under the under those other secondary coverts. So you just see a couple of those. And again, all of these feathers overlap like the shingles of a roof. So now we see the very long primaries that help them be such an acrobatic falcon. And there's 10 of those. And the first one I'm going to point at with that green pencil so you can kind of follow along more easily. We see basically we've got a big triangle. So I'm going to make that big triangle first of the primaries. A big long triangle. So I'm just showing the length of that triangle and the width. Just drawing that very, very lightly as a little bit of a, what do we call it? Like the foundation, like a cement foundation of a house. You put that up first before you put up any of the walls or the roof, right? So I get that very lightly. So I just know where I'm going to put these primaries now. And I'm kind of just double checking where I am in my box here. So now we're going to do each of those primaries. And I'm going to point at each one with my green pencil just to keep track for both of us. So that's the first one. And each one shows a little bit more. So the second one, you see a little bit more of it. It's a little bit more longer and pointed than the first one. Now the third one. And the fourth one. And the fifth one. And there's a little bit of overlap. It's kind of bumpy there. Sixth one. So it's not an exact straight line down there. Eighth. Or wait, sorry, that's the seventh. And then the eighth and ninth kind of tucked under, and they all come up to the base of those primary coverts. So just noticing where they go. Now doing the ninth, which is kind of tucked under, doesn't see much of that. And then the 10th is shorter than the others. If you went back and looked at the other slides, you could see that it's definitely shorter. And you can kind of see that in the photo on the right as well. So now I'm going to strengthen up those lines again, and I'm not just tracing, I'm kind of still looking back and forth with my eyes, ground truthing those shapes. They could be a little bit more exact, but this is good enough for the field because those last few primaries do have a kind of a notch in them that I haven't really shown, but you can't see it very well. Thank you, Kestrel Falconer. Yeah, this is the way we would learn how to sketch, very detailed, but, this is great practice if you're going to want to learn more about certain birds you're going to see in the field, to sketch from photographs first and really learn the shapes and the field marks. And then when you go into the field, you can do a lot more sketchy sketches like my examples I showed earlier. So anyway, this is the female's left wing, her primaries, and they're kind of in a big pile. So I'm not showing all of those. I just kind of show a couple of them there. Now going back to strengthening up the tertials, which are the last 3 secondaries. and the shadowed tertials of her left wing. Then her tail, looking at that nice negative shape, that triangle, and just noticing how long it is and how wide it is. So double checking with my pencil the width and the length. Always looking back and forth between my reference photo or my real bird in the scope and my paper. It's really easy to get sidetracked looking at your paper too much, and you begin to draw from your imagination or from your memory. But it's really important, if you're going to draw something accurately, to look. And so these feathers kind of all overlap. You can't quite tell the difference there, but they overlap like the shingles of a roof as well, going down under from the very middle pair. But we don't see much of that right now. So that's as far as we can go with that now. Now we're going to go back up to the top of the bird. So looking a bit more at that neck there. We're going to get the head and the legs in a minute. I know we're running a little bit late, but Lisa said that's okay. We just have a few more minutes here. So I'm going to have you do a lot more details of those feathers of the shoulder on your own. So that's all I'm going to do for now for that shoulder area. You could take forever to get all those patterns in there if you wanted to. And of course, you could turn this drawing into the male if you wanted to, if you wanted a different color palette, but this is the female that we're drawing. So now we're going to look more closely at the face. So I got a larger version for you to see really well, that really big raptorial eye and the kind of small head, square head. So we're just mainly first getting the dimensions of the head, the width and length, and double checking we have our neck good there. The back of the head, kind of getting all this easy stuff first. The intimidating part is the beak and the eye. That's a challenging part, but we're going to try to get the dimensions correct here. This bird is sort of looking towards us, so the head is a little bit foreshortened. So I'm kind of shortening it there a little bit more. So it's not exact side view, it's looking towards us. So now strengthening that head, that I like that now. Now I'm going to work on the beak. So we see, it's got that raptorial sharp beak. It's curved down sharply. And the shape of a bird's beak is pretty important to get right if you're wanting to draw a particular species. So that can be a little bit intimidating. Get that tomial tooth, as we call it, which is that serrated part like a steak knife. And then that bare yellow cere. And then the bottom mandible. And the back of the open mouth. This is a quite challenging view here, but I want to see if you can do it. I know you can do it. And again, you can always start over. The more you practice, the better. So if you come back, in fact, this was my second try at making this video because I wanted to make it really good for you. And I'm sure if I drew this bird 10 times, I would be even better. So looking at the angle of the neck and the lower bill, you can see that's pretty much a 90-degree angle. So being pretty careful about the shape of that beak. Getting it nice and pointed and sharp to get those grasshoppers and voles and snakes. Then we outline the yellow cere and the nostril. And I'm just shading inside a teeny bit there, make it look less flat. Now we're going to add the eye. And that's another part that's can be kind of intimidating. Notice how far the eye is down from the top of the head and in from the forehead. And so I'm just kind of making these very light lines to help place it. And up an angle up from the bill or beak. And I'll start making a circle. And I'll start kind of small, but looking back and forth and getting it a little bit bigger and bigger to make sure it's the right size. And remember, this bird is looking at us a bit, so the eye is going to be a bit more to the left than it would be if this was just to the side, obviously. And leaving in a highlight there to make it look really alive. And then making that strong brow that makes them always look very fierce, like they're frowning. And then that yellow bare spot in front, that little triangle. And then there's kind of a circle, a yellow circle around the eye that's very subtle. And then we're just noticing a little bit about the pattern on the head. Again, don't have time to deal with that today. We're mainly focused on the external anatomy, but we see those important field marks for this species, which are the mustache and the sideburns, and then the black mark at the base of the neck, and that cinnamon color and the base of the neck, and then the slate on the top. So just adding that a little tiny bit. Now, going back, we're going to go back now to the legs. We see the leg in the lower right photo. You can see it better than I did when I was drawing it, so maybe you can do an even better drawing. But I kind of cheated and used that extra pencil to draw my my piece of my limb there. He's standing on. She is standing on. So just noticing where that limb is and compared to the bird, where it is kind of crossing under the primary feathers. Now the leg, we notice this angle of the main leg and then the three toes. So first I'm just going to draw a line in the right angle and the right length that shows the leg and that first toe. And the kind of the palm or the ankle of the leg. And then I'm going to build the toes off of that. And then we'll get them more realistic in a sec. Just trying to place them first. Then now some more detail of the leg, the upper leg. And then looking at each toe, that longest middle toe, that's always the longest toe, the middle of the three that face forward. And then the other one, and the other one's in the shade. We don't see that much, so don't worry about that too much because we're going to add some shade in a sec. And there's kind of a bump under there of the palm, I guess you could call it. Now the toe there and the very strong black claws. Then I'm just drawing some little circles. We can't see it well enough, but they do have certain patterns. The falcons have certain patterns on their legs that are different than the pattern that you might see on a songbird or a thrush, which is even different. So now going back to the whole bird and just kind of finalizing this first sketch. Again, we're not going to add any more detail to the mantle or scapulars or coverts. You can do that later because this would go very long if I kept doing that. But I'm just going to add a little bit more to the head because you really want to focus on the head and the eyes because that's important in identification, and those field marks. The most unique field mark for this American Kestrel are those kind of three parallel black lines that you see on the head. We showed you other photos earlier of other falcons with kind of similar lines. But again, if you draw this, you're going to remember this much better. And comparing, similar species and drawing sketches of those facial field marks will help you as well. Because some of the other ones do look like they have a mustache, right? But this one has the mustache, the sideburn, and the one spot at the base of the neck. So just strengthening up a few things here, just going around a little bit. And just, again, you want to have that head pretty realistic because that really helps you make it look alive. The eye, is the window to the soul. And you can even add some ink, some black ink pen in the eye and in those black facial marks like I did on my finished one later on. You can do that if you want. But anyway, get those facial marks because those are super important for this species. A lot of times if you were sketching in the field, you want to focus on those field marks. You don't have to spend, an hour putting all the patterns of the, feathers on the back if that's not as important in identifying. So again, if you're a bird watcher, especially a newer bird watcher, it's really great practice for you to learn the birds by sketching them and focusing on the field marks. So you can look at your field guide and see what they say are the important field marks and then really put more energy into those. You don't have to worry so much about other things. Just every bird has different field marks that are important. It might be their shape, or might be their eye color, leg color, could be facial patterns, length of wings or tail, even the color of the feet. So it just helps. So I'm just adding a little bit more shadowing here, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully you guys are following along. Just adding a bit of shadow here, this cast shadow of the primary wing on top of the tail. And then there's some of those bars. So that barring pattern is, characteristic field mark for the female. Very much different than the male cinnamon black and white tail. Oh, you're welcome, Susan. Now I'm adding some shadowing of the cast shadow of the bird's body onto the branch. And that's going to put some of that back toe in shadow. And I know some parts are really intimidating to draw, like the feet. If you hate your feet, you can always draw some leaves on top of them. Oh, you're welcome, Kestrel Falconer. Now, don't go away if you can stick around. I know we're a little bit over time. We're just about done with this demo. And then I'd love it if anybody would want to try to share their screen and tell us what you learned and show us your initial sketch. Now, I know you're probably not as far along as this, and there's a lot more that you could do, a lot more patterning you could add later. So I don't expect you to be done at all, but I'm always curious to see how many people were able to follow along live. And if you have any questions or comments from me or for Lisa, she can chime in either on screen or just replying on the chat box here on Crowdcast or on Facebook over on the live comments on Facebook. So she could do that too, but I would love to see your nice, happy faces from all over the world. I saw that we had people visiting from all the way from Canada to the north to Panama in the south, and Europe as well, the Netherlands, and all over the United States and all over the West Indies. So it's wonderful to have you guys joining me. And I hope you learned a little bit here. I'm just spending a little bit more time with those cast shadows that help give him some three-dimensionality. Susan, you're welcome. Mary Ellen, thank you. Okay. So anyway, we do have to start wrapping up because we were supposed to try to keep it right and tight in an hour, but I would love to see who might want to share. Who might want to share? Remember, you can always come back. The replay will be ready here in just a few minutes after we're done, and you can also watch it on YouTube or Facebook later on. Lisa from Birds Caribbean, my co-host, will be posting it over there. But who will share? Who will share? Let's see. Mike. Mike will share. Hi, Mike. Let's see if you can share this time. And I know last time you weren't able to hear me, but doesn't matter. Just show your picture right up close, and we can hear you, even if you couldn't hear me for some reason. Oh, and Jamie will be next. Oh, wait, that's not Jamie. That's the kids. Oh, that's Lori and Aaliyah and Sarah, I think, is that family. And Irene wants to share. Anna, oh, wonderful. Good. I'm so glad to see folks sharing. So we're going to see who can get up here and share. So KB asked, do we need to click the share button? I click it. So you tell me that you want to share and I invite you. Hi there, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Were you following along or did you cheat and
no,
start
I was just
earlier?
following along. So yeah.
Perfect. Wonderful. Great job. Any questions?
The anatomy really helped, but I don't think I have the feathers right at all, but
well, yeah, no, that's pretty close. Just go back and look at it more closely and look at that graphic I made. But yeah, the more you study the anatomy, the better. It really takes a while. People can be really intimidated by all those feathers and how they sit on the wing and how they vary among closely related species. So just keep looking. Okay, thanks, Mike, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, now now let's see, gotta go back to see who else to share. Samuel was the next person. And then Jamie and Lisa said Emma share. Okay, I think Emma said she wanted to share, yeah. And Marie, so this is the fun part. This is the extracurricular. Hello.
Hi. It's Wendy, so I don't know if you can see, but I'm trying to color it with marker.
Perfect. Oh, that's beautiful. I love the orange and yellow colors too of the beak and the very strong talons. That's great, Samuel. Thanks for sharing. Bye-bye. Okay, we got more people. Okay, Jamie is next. Actually, Jamie's the mom's name. We've got 3 kids that are homeschooling that are Jamie's kids. So let's see. Lori and Aaliyah and Sarah. Hi there.
I'm drawing today.
Because I'm supposed to be feeding the baby.
So there's my Kestrel.
Wow. Now, what's your name? Remind us what your name is.
Aaliyah.
Aaliyah, and how old are you?
9.
9. Did you have fun?
Mm-hmm.
Did you learn a lot?
What?
Did you learn a lot?
Yeah. And just a couple of days ago, I saw like a hawk. We were going on a walk and we saw a hawk on a sign. It was really pretty.
Wow. Neat. Have you ever seen a kestrel?
I don't know. We have seen a red-tailed hawk. You were talking about those.
Those are really common. Yeah, we see those too a lot here. Well, thanks for sharing and say hi to your siblings for me.
Okay.
Bye. See you next time. Okay, so Irene, I'm glad you made it today. You couldn't make it the other day live, but here you are today. So Irene, so KB, if you want to share, just say share and I'll add you. So we've got Irene and then Anne Marie and Emma. Wonderful. Victoria says, Gorgeous. Eileen says, thank you. Have a good weekend. Kestrel Falconer wants to share. Yeah, you do need to have the audio and video running. Oh, okay. So KB said they'll share. Okay. So when you come on, introduce yourself. Tell us your name and where you're from, especially if I can't tell by your emoji here. Okay. And so while you're waiting, make sure to keep working on your sketch. Here's the male image there. You see he's got those beautiful slate colored wings and that kind of burnt sienna back and tail. It's very different from the female. Sometimes it takes a minute for people to come on. I'm going to, oh, here she is. There's Irene.
There's Irene. And don't ask me how old I am.
Hello. Okay, I'm asking the kids.
Yeah, okay. The kids are all right.
Gorgeous. That is a wonderful job. Amazing. And it's
Thank
so large
you.
too. You did a
I
great job.
cheated a little bit because I drew while you were doing the explanations.
Oh, okay.
I started from the beginning because
No
it was
wonder. No
Yeah.
wonder. So good. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Glad you were able to make it live today.
Thank you.
Great. I love your sculpture above your door.
Oh, that Venezuela.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Okay,
Oh,
take
that you
care.
can't.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, Anne-Marie is up next. Anne-Marie and then Emma. And then KB. Great. Hello.
Hi.
How are you today? Thanks for
I'm
joining
good.
us again. Oh, that's right. Anne-Marie works on the Procreate app. How fun. I wish I could learn how to do that. That's fabulous.
Okay, glad you like it.
Thanks for joining. Any questions or comments?
I don't know. I know proportions are so important. Do you think I ought to change this? This looks a little too fat.
And the tail needs to be longer. So the tail is longer than the extension of the primaries. And
Okay.
so that's more important than the fatness, because like I showed you before, you know, birds can really change their body shape depending on if they're cold or warm. And so that still could be somewhat anatomically correct, being fatter, because it could be a cold day. But I would make the tail longer. That's the only thing I would do.
All right.
Yeah, refer back to the image in the replay.
I will.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye. Okay, Emma is next. Emma, I think you're in Jamaica, right? So fun to see these people online that I actually know in person too. We met at the Birds Caribbean semi-annual conference there. Hi there.
Hi, Christine. Hi, everyone. I'm Emma in Kingston, Jamaica.
That's right in Kingston.
Yep. And we have kestrels around our yard quite a lot. This is my drawing. Can you see it?
Yes, I can.
He's rather big. Oh.
Now, are they the same color as the ones I was showing in my photos, or do they differ a bit like the Cuban one?
They differ a bit. Yes, they do. I think there's lots of different, well, Lisa could probably say, but I think there's different races on different islands. It's a bit confusing and complicated, I think.
Sure.
But yes, a little bit different, yeah.
Yes.
But, I had difficulty with the head, though. I think the head is too big, and the proportions aren't quite right.
It is intimidating to do heads. Yeah, I'd say the head is the right size, but maybe the eye bill is proportionally a teensy bit too big.
Too big. Okay.
Sometimes what I like to do is have people hold their photograph upside down and look at it like that. because sometimes that will help you to see things more abstractly and not get intimidated by thinking, oh, that's a beautiful eye or that's a sharp bill. Really making you look at those angles and alignments.
It's upside down now.
Yeah. So if you could print out your reference photo, I would practice drawing upside down. That's one of the first things I tell people.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really fun. Turns you into your right brain very quickly. Thanks
Nice
for sharing.
to see you.
Bye, Emma.
Thank you.
All right, I think there might have been somebody. Oh, KB. KB was going to try to share. Great. Yeah, and Lisa reminds us, share your sketches on social media with hashtag WMBD2020 Great. I'm looking forward to seeing those on Facebook and Instagram. Okay, and I think that's almost... Oh, Kestrel Falconer is 13. Oh, awesome. You are so intelligent. You know so much about the birds being so young. Daisy says, beautiful. Samuel says, awesome job, Aaliyah. Hello there, KB.
Hi, Kathy here, and I'm a total beginner. So
perfect. That's my
rude.
favorite. I love to get people into sketching and learning how valuable it can be, as well as very relaxing and therapeutic.
It's fun.
Good, good.
Thanks
I think that's very accurate.
I really enjoy the presentation.
Good, good. We'll make sure. Remember, we're going to do the Pintail in a few weeks, and then the barn owl near Halloween.
Great.
Yeah, great. Okay, take care. Thanks for sharing. Bye-bye. So fun. Okay, I think, is there anybody else? Let's see. Make sure. Oh, great. Yeah, Deborah's telling Aaliyah about the virtual summer camp for kids. I have got lots of youth that watch me as part of my normal online courses. And so she said the Sea and Sage Audubon in Irvine, California has a free virtual summer camp for kids your age. Go to our website at seaandsageaudubon.org. Great. Okay. Anybody else? Victoria wanted to share. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Victoria. There we go. Isn't this fun? Lisa said, thanks everyone for joining us in this webinar. Follow Birds Caribbean on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Birds Caribbean. Hello. Oh, hi. I haven't seen you in quite a while. Thanks for joining again.
Wow. I'm so happy to be back. Here's my sketch.
Wonderful. I wondered where you went, Victoria.
Yeah, life just got busy, but I'm so happy to be back.
Good, good. Well, you keep following me. You know, I'm always doing stuff online. Show that sketch again. I love those field marks. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, very accurate. Really nice. I like that. Thank you. And you got started with all the details on those coverts, so you can just keep working on that.
Thank you.
Okay, well, keep in touch and make sure to join us for the free Pintail and barn owls, as well as all the other crazy stuff I do online all the time. Okay, Victoria, bye-bye.
Bye.
Trudy, well, let me see. I'll just click and see if it works. You get an invitation if I click on your name. So if you say you want to share, then I click on your name and you get an invitation. And then if you have audio and video, it should just come on up and you'll just say, yeah. Yeah, Trudy, I haven't heard from you in quite a while. Great to see you. Milana says she'll share on the Facebook group. Great. Deborah says thanks. Hi, Deborah. Okay, we got our... Good. Yeah, so...
Hey there.
Hi, Trudy. How are you?
I'm doing good. When I don't like something that I'm sketching, I try to do something else off to the side. So I wasn't happy with how the head was going, so I did it again. And typically, I only do a 3-minute sketch. if I'm doing really good, I'll do a 5 minutes. So this was agony today to follow along with you, but I'm glad I did.
Well, I teach a lot of really quick 1 and 3 and 5 minute sketching too, if you ever follow me on my other crowdcasts. So we practice that a lot in my courses as well. You know, I teach online courses. But yeah, this was just, you know, studying really the anatomy of this species. So
that's
again,
what we're going to be doing with our, we're going to be doing a virtual bird walk with 4th and 5th grade students this upcoming year. And so I wanted to get some ideas from your presentation and how you're doing live and chat and following along. So thank you very much.
Good. Well, contact me if you want to in private. I can help you out with that. Anything I can do to help. Okay, great. Well, take care there. Bye-bye. Okay, I think that's about everybody. I really appreciate you guys coming along and joining me today. Remember, we will probably get in touch with you if you keep in touch on Facebook or in social media. And we'll email you about the upcoming events. Remember, there's the free Pintail in a few weeks, and then the barn owl, which is appropriately near Halloween. And so those will be super fun, and you'll do even better than you did today because you've had some practice. And remember, if you go to the link below, you can download those images, at least for today's thing. Oh yeah, you can download the other images for the pintail and the barn owl at those links, and I did give you those. You can also follow me here on Crowdcast and see all of the other things I've done. A lot of them are free of charge, and you can also see the barn owl and pintail and download those references to get you started. So anyway, okay, great. Lisa's going to take off. Okay, so I'm going to get going too because we went a little bit over, but it's, you know, it's hard to stop. Anyway, I really enjoy you hanging out with us today with Lisa and Birds Caribbean and the World Migratory Bird Day. And I hope you got a little bit inspired about understanding bird anatomy and what you want to look for no matter what kind of bird you're sketching, and that the value of sketching is really valuable. It really helps you, improves your birding skills, bird identification, as well as anything else you might draw. And as you saw in the people that came up, people of all ages can benefit from sketching and can follow along. So if you've got kids or grandkids or homeschooling kids, you know, get them out there with their sketchbook out in the field, even if it's just on your back stoop and you're looking at an earthworm. Anywhere you are, you can learn a lot about the natural world through the process of sketching. Okay, well, I think I'm going to take off. I think we're just about done here. And I look forward to seeing you. Victoria says thanks. Lisa says bye. Nancy says bye. Yes, it's nice to celebrate something finally. Yeah. So take care. Have a great day. And I'll see you soon. We'll be in touch. And remember, share those sketches on social media at World Migratory Bird Day? Yeah. Hashtag WMBD 2020 Carib. That's the hashtag. So I'm going to go look online now and see if your sketches are there yet. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.